Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to dive into something that is absolutely going to challenge everything you learned in high school biology. You know the drill, right? We've all been handed this incredibly sterile, textbook definition of the human heart. We're told it's just the body's motor, a mechanical pump, literally just a blind piece of meat whose only job is to push blood through our veins. And, well, that's supposed to be the end of the story. But when you really look at the source material through a blend of deeply philosophical and hard scientific lenses, that purely mechanical definition completely falls apart. Today, we're unpacking a massive paradigm shift. We're going to see how the heart is so much more than a machine. It is actually biology's ultimate confidant.
So, let's start with a beautiful, almost Socratic question from our source to shatter that old myth. If the heart is genuinely just a piece of meat, a simple, unthinking pump, why is it that when we experience a profound emotional shock, it's not our brain that physically aches? Think about it. When you're hit with overwhelming sadness or sudden intense grief, why do you feel a very real physical ache right dead in the center of your chest? Why is the heart the absolute first responder to our emotional turbulence? This undeniable human experience points to a reality that science is just now starting to fully map out.
Section 1, Mechanical Pump or Confidant. Let's get into it.
The core idea here is that the heart is not some silent, obedient slave to the brain. It's actually the brain's greatest and most intelligent confidant. We've got the old myth on one hand, the blind piece of meat. But the biological reality, it's wild. You see, the things we call feelings aren't just invisible, abstract concepts floating around in the ether. Every time you feel profound sadness or explosive joy, you are literally generating physical waves of energy inside your body. And the fascinating biological perspective we're examining shows that the heart is the very first organ to intercept, sense, and analyze those physical waves. It feels the impact before your brain has even finished processing what just happened.
Which brings us to Section 2, the heart's 40,000 neuron brain.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, this sounds like a lovely poetic metaphor, but we are talking about hard scientific data here. Researchers have discovered approximately 40,000 nerve cells, neurons, residing right inside the human heart. Let that sink in for a second. The heart has its own complex nervous system. It essentially functions as a highly sophisticated, localized mini-brain. It actually has the physical hardware required to sense, adapt, and process information entirely on its own.
And this leads to something truly mind-blowing. The standard textbook assumption has always been this strict top-down hierarchy, right? The almighty brain sends commands down to the heart, telling it to speed up or slow down. But the scientific fact is precisely the opposite when you look at the actual traffic volume. There are far more communication signals traveling upward from the heart to the brain than there are traveling downward. The heart is actually doing way more of the talking, and the brain is doing more of the listening.
So, what does this mean for us? It gives us a biological explanation for our sixth sense. Because the heart senses those physical waves of emotion first, and because it's sitting on a high-speed neural highway straight up to the brain, it acts as our ultimate early warning system. It reads the environment and our internal state, and it shoots status bad or all good alerts up to the brain way faster than our logical mind can process the situation. When you get that classic gut feeling about something, biologically speaking, you are very often listening to the rapid-fire signals generated by that mini-brain right inside your chest.
Moving to Section 3, the cellular impact of emotions.
We really need to look at what happens microscopically when our psychological state starts to take a hit. Emotional stress is not just in your head. When we fall into heavy emotional states like severe stress or depression, that negative psychological energy instantly converts into real, measurable biological tension. In the literal milliseconds between your heartbeats, your heart has the ability to fundamentally alter its own internal chemistry. This means your psychological state isn't just a mental experience, it is directly pulling the levers on your cellular aging.
Our source material lays out a very real regeneration hypothesis here. Step 1. We get hit with intense emotional stress. Step 2, as we just saw, this triggers a lightning-fast change in the heart's internal chemistry. And then we hit Step 3, which is where things get dangerous. Paused cellular regeneration. When we are trapped in that tension, our heart cells actually freeze their self-repair and self-renewal programs. They basically go into a metabolic holding pattern. It all leads to this profound realization. We are directly controlling our heart's biology with our emotions. Our internal emotional world dictates whether the actual physical cells of our heart survive and thrive, or whether they age and break down. We are literally steering our biology through our feelings.
And that takes us to our final section,
broken heart syndrome and the concept of sacrifice. We've all heard the phrase, right? They died of a broken heart. It sounds like something out of a movie, but in the medical world, this is a real documented diagnosis called takotsubo, or broken heart syndrome. When someone goes through a massive emotional trauma, like the sudden loss of a loved one, the heart physically changes its shape, often mimicking a massive heart attack. Now, traditionally, textbooks and doctors classified this simply as a pathology, a disease, a total system failure.
But listen to this paradigm-shifting quote from our source material. This is not a disease, but biology's most emotional adaptation and sacrifice. That completely flips the script. Instead of looking at takotsubo as the heart just failing or breaking under the pressure, we can view it through the lens of a philosophical biologist.
Here is exactly how that biological sacrifice works. When that unimaginably massive emotional stress wave hits the body, the energy is so destructive that if the heart just kept pumping normally, the shock wave could literally cause the organ to rupture. So what does it do? It deliberately locks itself down. It intentionally alters its own physical shape to absorb the shock. The cells of the heart temporarily sacrifice their normal function, taking the absolute brunt of the damage, specifically so the whole organism doesn't explode and die. It's the ultimate biological defense mechanism. It is pure heroism on a cellular level.
When you really understand that, when you see how the heart senses, communicates, adapts, and even sacrifices itself for your survival, you realize that treating it as a mere mechanical machine is just a massive injustice. The heart is biology's form of the soul. It is the physical, living, beating manifestation of our internal world.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought from the source. Based on everything we've uncovered today, from those 40,000 neurons to the stunning cellular sacrifice of broken heart syndrome, is the heart truly just a pump? Or is it a second center within us that feels absolutely everything? I want you to really think about that the next time your chest aches from a sudden rush of emotion. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. I hope this helps you reconsider your own biology in a completely new light. Keep learning, keep questioning, and definitely take good care of that incredible second brain in your chest.